MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell once again back in the news, trying to hype up his cyber symposium coming up in mid-August. And he made a prediction on Real America's Voice this week. Basically, actually one of several predictions, but this is the one that sticks out. He thinks that after he does his cyber symposium and after he reveals all of this information he allegedly has, he thinks that President Biden and Vice President Harris will end up resigning, and somehow he thinks that's going to make Trump president again. Here he is making his absurd claim. Take a look.
When we get through this and the Supreme Court pulls down this election, like I've been telling everybody, when they do this, it's going to be a great uniting. And that gives me hope right there. These are Democrats on the ground that voted for Biden, and they realize now the mistake that, they feel responsible, but they're seeing in power. And once we show them that it was China, the CCP, that used the Democrat Party. And granted, don't get me wrong, there was people involved in this, and we'll find out. Once we had the symposium, Steve, I told these people, I said, you know what? I said, well, how are the pathways of Donald Trump coming back? And I said, well, the first one would be once we have the symposium by the night of the 12th or the morning of the 13th, if everyone has seen it, including the administration that's in there now that didn't win, maybe, Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. And I'm serious. If you have any moral character about you, we're all in this together. And this was an attack, and you're going to see that at the symposium. It's all going to be, everything will be revealed there.
Now, the good folks on Twitter were very quick to point out to Mike Lindell that if Biden resigns and Harris resigns, that doesn't mean Donald Trump gets to go play president again. What that means is that we would then have President Nancy Pelosi, as she is third in the presidential line of succession. And then, of course, she would be able to pick who she wants to have as her vice president. The Democrats, still having a majority in the House of Representatives, would be able to elect a new person as speaker, who would then become the third in line for the presidency. You see, the cycle would just continue to repeat itself, and Mike Lindell doesn't seem to realize that. It would repeat itself basically until Democrats ran out of members of the House to put as speaker, who then would become vice president or president, and then they would lose their majorities and yada yada. But either way, Mike Lindell, for a guy who swears he has all this knowledge, sure doesn't know a lot about anything. He continues to get things wrong. He continues to go out there and push these baseless conspiracy theories. Nothing is going to happen at his cyber symposium, right? We already saw a little bit of evidence that he released last week, once again on Real America's Voice, I believe it was, had it going across the screen. Nothing but jumbled up letters, numbers, so blurry you couldn't even make them out if you went through it frame by frame. The guy has absolutely nothing. He is a fraud. He is a charlatan. And he's going to be made to be a complete fool by the time this symposium ends, I guess, the morning of August 13th, as he says. Nothing's going to come of this other than a lot of publicity for a man who clearly does not deserve it. The only question I have is what happens when everything he's predicting doesn't happen, right? What happens when Biden and Harris do not resign? What happens when the Supreme Court rejects his case? What happens when Trump is not reinstated? What then? Is he going to claim some big grand conspiracy against him? Or is he going to finally admit that he has been lying to people for months on end about evidence that doesn't actually exist? I am hoping that when this cyber symposium flops, not only that he has to pay out $5 million to everybody who proves him wrong, but I am hoping that the people who have been duped by this moron, I hope they wake up, move on from the 2020 election, and stop following idiots down the path of conspiracies. One of today's video sponsors is PureVPN, and right now, PureVPN is offering a wonderful 14th anniversary special price of just $2.88 per month on a 2-year plan. If you're not using a VPN to search the web right now, you are not surfing the web as safely as you may think. and PureVPN offers one of the most secure VPN experiences out there. You can experience an all-new PureVPN with an all-new and easy-to-use app and much improved performance. Its fast and reliable VPN service now has more than 6,500 servers, which is the most any VPN in the market currently offers. It secures your connection on all of your devices with easy-to-use apps across all major platforms, and they now offer 10 multi-logins instead of just 5. And this is the only VPN in the market with an always-on third-party audit to verify the no logs claim. And it helps you stream all you want, including Disney+, the 7 different Netflix regions, Amazon Prime, BBC iPlayer UK, ITV UK, and many others. And it helps you purchase all kinds of online deals with lesser prices by connecting to certain regions. And it keeps you secure, no matter where you are, with public Wi-Fi protection. Again, go to purevpn.com/theringoffire and take advantage of the 14th anniversary special price of just $2.88 per month with a 2-year plan.